image of that same area, you can see that that cul-de-sac that was platted has not been utilized, and I'm not aware of any plans to utilize it. Again, this was drawn in 1954, and it has not been, if it was ever utilized, it has not been utilized for quite some time. The proposed improvement, you can see the blue rectangle is the requested 4 feet by 18-foot long canopy. The orange arrow is the existing 19-foot front setback, and the red arrow is if this variance is approved, would be the 15-foot side setback or front setback in place once the canopy is placed. Should this property have been platted without the carve out for the cul-de-sac, there would have been approximately 40 feet from the existing property to the front property line or the east property line, and this variance would not have been necessary. The criteria summary for this zoning variance, of the 7 criteria to be considered, all criteria have been met. This plan is consistent with the Daytona Beach Shores Comprehensive Plan. Public notice requirements have been met, and the same have been forwarded to the city clerk. The requisite staff review has been done. The Planning and Zoning Board approval or denial for non-administrative zoning variance ZV 2024-029 is what remains for this to be approved. Staff is recommending approval of this zoning variance as presented.
Thank you very much. Questions? Board? Questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Anyone in the audience would like to speak on this item? If not, I'll hear a motion. Approve.
I'll make a motion to approve zoning variance ZV 12024029 as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
James.
Please. Will we do roll call or just
That's fine.
roll call, please?
James Lilly,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Guy,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and Chuck.
Yes.
The next zoning variance is been approved. The next zoning variance is ZV 1202-4030-2902 River Point Drive, Mayberry front yard setback variance to extend garage.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Acting Chair, Vice Chair Tornator. Good morning again, Planning and Zoning Board members. Gwen Herstein, City Planner for the City of Daytona Beach Shores. The project now before you is a zoning variance request for the Mayberry single-family residence, quasi-judicial hearing number 3B on the agenda. Staff report has been submitted for the record. This property is located at 2902 River Point Drive in Daytona Beach Shores, a street which has property frontages of 20 different properties along it, 7 of which are Daytona Beach Shores properties, and the remainder are Rouge County properties. The owners are Sylvia and Ronald Mayberry, with the applicant Zach Brooks of Coomer Construction Incorporated, and he is here this morning. The property size, 12,312.5 square feet, which is approximately 0.28 acres. Zoning district is RSF-2, Urban Single Family Residential Detached District. Future land use is low density residential. The current land use is single family residence. The applicant submitted this zoning variance application on October 7th, 2024. And the request is to build a garage extension within the required front yard setback. This site is located approximately 0.8 miles northwest of the Shores Community Center. It's about a 2-minute drive. Here's an aerial view of the property. You can see along its east side is South Peninsula Drive, and that it fronts River Point Drive to the south. And again, it borders the Oceans West Homeowners Association golf course. All around it otherwise are single-family residences, and to its north is a vacant lot, which is also zoned for single-family residents. This is a street view of the property. This is the view from River Point Drive. The truck is directly in front of where the extension, or on top of partially where the extension would have been added or would be added. Here's the proposed improvement in blue. The request is for a 15.9-foot extension by 21.3-foot extension coming out from the existing garage area. Currently, you can see the orange arrow shows you a 35.9-foot existing front setback, which is certainly meeting the required 30-foot front setback in this zoning district. And the red area shows you the 20-foot requested front setback, as it would be if this garage extension were built. The criteria summary of the 7 required criteria, all of which must be met for staff approval to be granted. The 4 of these criteria have been met. 2 criteria have not been met, and then based on one of the criteria not having been met, that rendered 1 additional criteria non-applicable. And certainly I don't want to go through all of the criteria with you, but I do want to discuss Romanets 1, 2, and 3 in a little more detail so you understand basically why those are not in the criteria met category. This plan is consistent with the Daytona Beach Shores Comprehensive Plan. This is a specific criteria, speaking of simply now of Romanet 1, the way the code reads, special conditions or circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable generally to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same zoning classification. The applicant's response was no special conditions exist. Staff did work to find if there were a possibility of noting a special condition. Staff did research a couple different avenues, but they did not meet the criteria. For example, of the 20 homes on River Point Drive, there are other homes that do not meet the 30-foot setback for a variety of reasons, whether it be variances through Volusia County, whether it be that they are legally non-conforming because they were built before the R3 county zoning designation was in place. There are a lot of reasons that it could be that way. Unfortunately, that still did not present a special condition or circumstance existing to this particular property or structure. So we could not state that the criteria had been met. We did look. Romanet 2, the special conditions or circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant and are not primarily economic or financial in nature. As the criterion we just discussed is not met, then that renders the second criterion non-applicable. Romanet 3, literal interpretation or enforcement of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning classification under the terms of this ordinance. Other single-family residences are not utilizing decreased front yard setbacks by right. They may be utilizing them, but they're not utilizing them by right. The R3, the rest of the properties on the River Point Drive that have frontage on River Point Drive either are under that RSF2 category, which has a 30-foot required front yard setback, or they are under the R3 Volusia County zoning district requirement, which also has a 30-foot required front yard setback. public notice requirements were met for this request, and the requisite staff review has been completed. What remains is the Planning and Zoning Board approval or denial for this non-administrative zoning variance ZB1 2024-030. And staff is recommending, simply based on not meeting all 7 of the criteria, that the zoning variance as presented be denied.
Any questions? Any questions?
I do. To look at the drawing, the schematics of this, see a four-wheel drive, long bed pickup truck sitting in a driveway. I'm guessing that truck is gonna be just about at this property line when it's parked outside of the garage that's proposed to be built. Which gives me some concern, because it might not be on his property. In other words, he's taking up so much room on his driveway that the truck might extend past the property line when he parks it outside the garage. Is the owner here?
The owner is not, but the contractor that submitted the application is present.
I would like to have asked the owner why he needs the extension.
I spoke with the owner a number of times. This couple specifically was stating that they would like to enclose, I'm not certain that it is this truck, but their long truck, as they described it, they'd like to enclose it in a garage and that it currently doesn't fit.
Well, I've got a truck that's 20 foot long and you can usually put it in the garage, but maybe when this house was built, the garage wasn't that deep, I don't know. It just concerns me about what I see and what I don't see.
I do have a question too. Is there a plan to make another room out of this garage or anything like that? And I don't think R3 would allow that, correct?
No.
Okay.
There,
Very good.
this one is in Daytona Beach Shores, so it's under the RSF2
Okay.
zoning designation.
Thank you very
district,
much.
rather.
Okay. All right. Anybody want to speak on this in the audience? Okay, come forward, please. State your name and address.
I'm Zach Brooks, the owner of Coomber Construction. And I just wanted to say, we did all this. The reason is there's a laundry room in the back of it. So it takes up like 8 feet of the garage. You can't get the truck in. So we wanted to extend it as much as we could to pull the long bed in. We submitted it all and did it all. He has dementia that she's just trying to make it easier for him. Anyway, that's not really relevant. But when we submitted everything, we didn't learn until just recently about all the reasons it's not gonna qualify, so we can't get the full. We were hoping we could at least get something to make it to where we could at least put the truck in. We already have all the bids done, we have all the estimating, we're ready to start, and we just learned all this. So at this point, I think we can only extend it 6 feet. I think we needed at least 10 to make it work, and we're trying to build 16.
So that laundry room goes all the way across the width of that garage? It's 8 foot deep?
Yes.
Said, what's the existing depth of the garage right now?
14 feet.
That's, can't you get a car?
12 feet. Yeah, they have one small car, like an old school car in it. And they're trying to make it to where we can put that in it.
I understand that. My question would be, why do you need the full?
Just so they could have a little more room to get out and move around, bring groceries out of the back when it's pulled in. We don't need all that space to get the truck in, but we would need, I think I said we need at least 10 feet.
It'd be nice to have it, yeah.
16 feet would be wonderful, but that's gonna put us way into it, I understand.
Yeah.
It'd be wonderful on a lot of reasons, they've been waiting a long time. We have to redo all the bids, but like I said, anything we could get would be great.
I think we're looking at what's presented, not what, well, let's knock it down to 6 feet or 8 feet.
Well, I was just throwing that out there, because I know that you mentioned there was another way we could get up to 9 feet, but we didn't qualify for that either. I was just throwing stuff out there.
I appreciate that.
May I approach to address what the gentleman just said? Originally, I had, being aware that an administrative variance is also a mechanism, knowing that they have 5.9 feet available to them right now to not be within that 30-foot setback. They could do what they wanted with permits, et cetera, and not need a zoning variance for that 5.9 feet. I had wondered and not done the research yet, but wondered and expressed that I still needed to look at it, that there could potentially be 3 feet available through an administrative variance. Unfortunately, the same criteria applies for an administrative variance. So if it's less than 10%, then we could approve it in the office if it meets the same criteria that this board must consider. And it still would not meet that, meet the criteria, so we wouldn't be able to approve it in that way. I don't know of any other mechanism for them to utilize any more than 5.9 feet.
Let me ask him, that laundry area, is that just an elevated 4 inches or 6 inches of concrete across it, or is that a wall?
It's both. It's elevated concrete, and they have 2 half walls.
Okay. We'll repeat that so we can hear it.
It's elevated to the slab height of the interior structure, and it also has 2 half walls opening just to where the washer and dryer come through, and then there's like shelves on each side.
So it's partitions, there are wall partitions.
There was a whole wall, I think they opened it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone else like to speak on the matter? Do I hear a motion?
Based on the information presented, I'd like to make a motion to deny zoning variance ZV 1202-1029.
Is there a second? I make a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Madam Chair,
Denied.
may I ask a question of the city attorney? Did you say you made a second?
Yes. But then he said a second.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Third.
He corrected me, I couldn't.
Okay, thank you.
You're the second.
I'm third.
Mr. Lilly is the second.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
since this is a quasi judicial hearing, we need to establish a good record. So any denial has to be based on competent and substantial evidence. So I just want to be clear for the record that your denial is based on staff's recommendation, which is that it does not meet section 14-63.8A 1 and 3. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. And I also think there might have been a question for the owner, and the owner's not present to answer the question. Was that also a reason for?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, for allowing me to clarify that.
Thank you. The motion is denied. Okay, do the roll call.
Chuck,
Yes.
Roseanne, Guy,
Yes.
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Moving right along, thank you very much. The next item is ordinance 2024-22, allowing non-conforming land use for Jet Set of Daytona at 2560 South Atlantic Avenue.
Hi, Madam Chair. Good morning again, planning and zoning members and Vice Chair Tornator. Joining the City Planner for Daytona Beach Shores. This is agenda item 4A. This matter regards a recommendation to the City Commission about ordinance, or leading to ordinance 2024-22, which would allow the continuation of the non-conforming use of body art at 2560 South Atlantic Avenue. The staff head report has been submitted for the record. Business owner is Gad Benchetreat of Body Art Gallery, doing business as Jet Set of Daytona. Current location is at the Beach Plaza at 2560 South Atlantic Avenue. Temporarily allowed use at this current location was approved through ordinance 2022-29, and that was on January 10th of 2023. it allowed 2 years of operating in this location as a non-conforming use or until January 9th, 2025. So that time frame is about to expire. The reason that the temporary use was originally allowed was that this business was located at 2518 South Atlantic Avenue. And for over 20 years, and it was the entire property and building thereon was damaged during Hurricane Ian, September 2022. The zoning district for both the original and the current locations is GCRD, the General Commercial Redevelopment District. This is an overall look at the zoning of the area. The parcel is zoned GCRD. There is GCRD additionally to the south. And with a park just above the property, the parking for the park is adjacent to this property where the use is currently located, the business is located. And then beyond the park, there is more General Commercial Redevelopment District to the north. This property is 1.3 miles north of the Shores Community Center. It's about a 3-minute drive. This is a view of the site that the property or the business is currently located in. It's at the northernmost end of Beach Plaza at 2560 South Atlantic Avenue. You can see that unfortunately during the recent hurricane they sustained roof damage there as well. Luckily, not as devastating as the roof damage at the 2518 location. The requested change, if approved, will allow the non-conforming use to continue 2560 beyond that January 9th, 2025 date. The requester is Gad Benchtreet of Body Art Gallery Incorporated, doing business as Jet Set of Daytona through attorney Jessica Gao of the Cobb Cole Law Firm. She is present at today's hearing. The requested duration for the change would be permanent while retaining the non-conforming use. And that non-conforming use means basically provided the use is not discontinued for longer than 6 months. The reason for the request, as I said, was that the original property, the reason for this most recent request, rather, is that so the plan previously was to move back to the original location once it was restored. The business owner has learned that the new property owner for that property may want to consider other options long-term for his property, and that might leave it without any business storefronts on the property at all. He wants to look at and keep options open, is what has been relayed to me. The proposed regulations contained in this ordinance 2024-22 are consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive plan. And so basically, the proposed ordinance accomplishes 2 things. It allows Jet Set of Daytona to operate at this 2560 South Atlantic Avenue location as a non-conforming use, as long as, again, the use is not discontinued over 6 months. And it also causes said business owner to utilize only existing lighting and existing signage and lighting required for public safety purposes after 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. daily. So it requires them to turn off all but essential lights during those hours. And since the property and this ordinance request originally went to the City Commission, the City Commission actually heard this ordinance initially, whereas normally this board would hear it first. In order to meet the guidelines, or the deadline rather, and let this business owner know what his options were moving forward, and give him as much time as possible, the City Commission heard it first. Wanted also and needed to hear from this board as to any recommendations. But basically, as long as the use isn't discontinued for a period over 6 months, this ordinance will allow it. This board, the staff is recommending that this board recommend to the city commission approval of ordinance 2024 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions? It's pretty simple.
I move to approve the ordinance 2024-22 as presented.
I'll second.
Roll call, please, Janet.
Chris,
Yes.
Guy,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
James,
No.
Motion passes. Thank you very much for your time. Is there any other thing that anyone wants to discuss before we adjourn?